Pod in My Noggin, hosted by CK Sims, creating a platform to elevate, educate, and heal by creating a space where people can share their stories of struggle, triumph, and redemption. CKS Media.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Pod in My Noggin. I'm your host, CK Sims, and this week we are joined by author, actually very multi-hyphenate person. I might have to look at my notes. So author of this book and others, Mysteries at the Windham Inn, and it's book one. There's a book two now, right? I believe. And that
out
one,
at the end of the year.
It's called A Date with Suicide?
No, that's another book.
Different book. Okay, perfect. And you are a U.S. Navy veteran. You are a Native American holy man. And
I got a feather to prove it.
A feather to prove it. And you have a lifetime. We have to unpack some of this stuff, a spiritual service as well. So welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. And I know my life's a mouthful, even for me.
Well, but interesting one, though. It's very interesting. I got your book not too long ago. I didn't have a chance to read it, but it is one of those things that I'm going to be doing in the next week or so when I take some time off work and can sit back and actually read and enjoy and thoroughly get into it. However, let's start by going back. So I have questions in my head about one part of your life. So, but let's go back to how your life started when you were younger. What were you like as a teenager?
So, was this a refresher course in birds and the bees? So my mother and father came to when two people love each other.
Yes, of course.
So I'm not sure what you're asking me about my young life. Is that when things started, or?
Yeah, like what were you like as a teenager?
That's great. As a teenager, you'll find that part out in book 2 of my book, 2,442 Steps to Crazy, the beginning. This book here takes me up to about the age of 14 when the spirits were whispering in my ear that were saying enough. And it was one of two people were about to be dead, either me or the crazy stepfather I had to deal with for the first 14 years of my life. But I had a viciously brutal childhood. Never said a word about it to anybody. And then as I lovingly say, I've been with my wife for 50 years. And when I wrote this book, I literally handed her the finished product, signed it, and said, "All right, baby, hold on to this. Maybe someday it'll be worth some money, but you want to know something about my past? Give it a read." And she did. And when she read it, she read it rather quickly, but it took her a number of days because of the impact. When she finished, another 3-4 days went by before she could talk to me. And when she did, she was just in tears. And she apologized a million times. And I said, "Listen, there's nothing you did." She goes, I now understand. I now understand. ... Okay. And then she looked at me and she said, "Just one thing. You weren't abused. You were tortured." And when she said that, I kind of drew back because I never really settled on woe is me or, blaming other people or whatever. So I didn't put much stock in it. Yeah, I was an abused kid, whatever. All right. When she said you were tortured, it honestly made me revisit my entire life. Okay. And I realized that, I had to water down a lot of the things that I put in that book because it was tough enough to read what a person had done to me or was doing to me, right? For years, right? I didn't think it was torture, but when she said torture, for me, it really hit home, right? Now, what am I going to do about it now? I tell jokes about it and in a sense, I kind of make light of it. But in the end, when I realized, when it really hit me, what she was saying, it also started, me down the path of how important it was for me to get my story and my stories out there, because I didn't understand the impact it would have on other people's lives. Mm-hmm. Now I do.
Yep. Well, and it's interesting. So I want to, for clarification purposes, did you say you were with you've been with your wife for 50 years, 50?
50 years, CK.
Seriously? Okay. But still, 35 years. Okay, so 35 years. And this book you wrote and gave to her when?
I don't know. My first book was released 3 years ago, maybe. The first time I was published.
So it's only been 3 years.
Oh, yeah.
That she knew the true sort of extent of what you went through. And it's interesting, too, when people actually, because to me, with a background in mental health, like you internalized all of it, just discounted, discredited, dismissed all of that throughout your entire life. And then you wrote it in a book, which you, in essence, you also watered it down to make it somewhat palatable to the masses, right? So you're still not 100% letting go of everything. But then it was a person's outside perspective looking in that made you realize that you weren't just simply an abused child, but you were being tortured.
Yeah. I've never counted how many bones I've had broken. Probably never will, never really want to. But on occasions, well, not recently, but over the years, I've had to go to the VA for different treatments because of my time in the service and so on. And they take pictures and MRIs and so on, and they keep finding these broken bones. And they ask me about it. And my wife would always go to the VA with me. And I would just kind of slough it off, go, I don't know. Football, right? Happened in football. But with the exception of a couple of bones that I did break in football, now the broken bones that they find and so on were all from childhood.
Wow. Well, I'm sorry that you had to deal with that. And I'm also sorry that there's so many people out there who have to deal with that shit right now in their lives.
I appreciate that, and I thank you very much for it. But I'm going to caveat with this. I have a deep faith, okay?
Yes.
Which at a couple points in my life, me and God, we weren't the way me and Jesus be now. Me and Jesus be one, right? But back, as I was growing up, I had a lot to say to God. Like, what the blankety blank did you get me into, and why can't, and so on and so on. All right, but as life took me down my path, and as I started down the journey of becoming a Native American holy man, I learned so much, right? And I had to come to my own conclusions, that I understand how this game works now. I understand how the soul moves forward, and I understand how important it is to take the bullet, so to say, for others, so that you can help many, many people. I mean, it's relatively easy to help one person, but to help large numbers of people, you almost have to have gone through something that's unfathomable, right? And that's pretty much what I've gone through. Not just the first 14 years that's in this book. My greatest hits just kept coming for decades after decades. I mean, they're still coming. We're still facing significant headwinds, all right? That everybody else in life faces as well. Okay, but I now have a platform where I can put that out there and help people, stay on the positive side of dealing with life.
Do you believe that those first 14 years sort of laid the groundwork for a lot of the headwinds, if you will, that came after?
Yes.
Like it was almost like the devil, right? That's the space you were in. And so it was almost like a magnet.
Yeah, let me give you an example.
Okay.
I never, ever, and I never will, put my hand on a woman. Okay? In anger.
I thank you for that.
Right? Okay, never will. And that comes exactly from my upbringing. I watched this crazy bastard beat the bloody hell out of my mother. Okay? He wouldn't touch my sisters, and I was always getting in between my sisters and my mother and my brother and so on. Okay? So taking a beating at more times than not was about getting in the way of him beating somebody else. So I just knew, but kind of my nature was it wouldn't happen. But in that environment, societal norms, kind of. No, not societal norms. Statistically, I should have been a wife beater, right? But I'm not, and I've never put my hand on a woman. Now, ask my wife, okay? And she says, "Well, one day you grabbed my elbow in the bathroom." Man, this was 10 years ago, and I still feel terrible about it. All right, she said I squeezed her elbow hard and hurt her. All right, and I mean that is my 60 plus years of, are you effing kidding me? Not in a bad way. I'm angry with myself that I even squeezed an elbow, right, to a point that she would remember. Anyway, the other the other things that happened to me took me down paths that a normal person might not have. I don't really fear the law. I don't fear general consequences. Okay, when you go into boot camp and out of boot camp, when you go into boot camp in better shape than you come out, all right. Boot camp was a walk in the park for me, all right. But that's based on my childhood. How hard is it to get screamed at by a bunch of drill instructors and run until you puke? Whoop-de-doo. The chow in the cafeteria was some of the greatest food I've ever eaten. Loved it. 3 hots on a cot. This is great, man. Okay. So those are things I look at it. And when I look at other people and they're bitching about their lives, or it's like, oh my God, my child that I had to share a bedroom with my sister and blah, blah, blah. I've always said, man, you have no idea how good you got it. Right. And honestly, unless you're homeless, you just don't understand homelessness. And I've been homeless, right, at a young age and post-military. On the negative side, yeah, I've been in front of a judge or two.
Doesn't surprise me, but what surprises me is that I'm processing information, right? So
I hear you, CK. I hear you.
Yeah. So you had this very tumultuous childhood.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, crazy. And then how old were you when you went and enlisted?
17.
Okay. So, I apologize if that offended
Right.
you. And this actual episode will get bleeped. That word will get bleeped, and a Bible will pop out because my editors are Christians. Their only stipulation is I don't take the Lord's name in vain. So you enlisted at 17. And how long did you serve for?
So I did a 6-year run in
Okay.
the Navy, but I was discharged from Navy to VA and eventually given 100% disability rating for injuries suffered while in the service. Navy tried to kill me a couple times. They tried to run me over with that. They actually ran me over with that submarine. I don't know if you can see it. But that submarine right there is the USS Dallas SSN 700. If it sounds familiar, it's because that's the boat that Tom Clancy wrote a book about called The Hunt for Red October. So I served on that boat for 3 years, 2 months. Yeah.
Now, a whole new direction now. So you're in the Navy. You said you just served on a submarine for over 3 years?
3 years, 2 months.
How long are you deployed on the actual submarine?
2 years, 1 month.
Oh, okay, wait, no, my brain's going to break into pieces. Yeah. Okay, you live in the submarine consecutively for 3 years, 1 month, 2 months?
I was attached to the submarine for 3 years, 2 months. When we were in home port in the U.S., we would get barracks. But, yes, you lived on the boat the entire time you're there. And when you deploy, we were deployed for 2 years, 1 month. So of that 3 years, 2 months, I was deployed for 2 years, 1 month, which means you go on the boat, you shut the hatch, you go out to sea. Okay? You come back. Again, it wasn't 2 years, 1 month nonstop, but it was, 3 months, 6 months. We did a 6.5 month round the world cruise where we left the East Coast, went into the Indian Ocean, finished the way around, went to Australia and came back through the Panama Canal. I mean, I've got stories that'll rattle your cage.
Do you port? Do you port during that time, or are you literally in the submarine the whole 6 months?
You can be, but the longest nonstop run, meaning, from the time we left port till we refitted, was north of 4 months.
I mean, okay, So my mind's thinking to myself, okay, so you have this tortured kid. You don't have fear of authority, essentially, is what you said, or consequence. And then you put someone who hasn't like worked through their physical, emotional, or spiritual trauma in a sardine can for 4+ months. How did that play out? Like in my mind, that's like putting the Hulk in a cage with a bunch of like people.
Yeah,
And
that's a pretty good assessment. You know, mentally it was a grind. You know, the minutes took forever. You know, the hours were excruciating, but there was nothing to gauge them. Right, every minute was a repeat of the prior one. Just kind of keep doing the same stuff, and then you're followed by just sheer madness. Whether you're doing things in places that protect the country, or in a submarine, the thing you fear most is fire. And on my first deployment, we were in Diego Garcia, which is a dot of an island in the Indian Ocean. And when we outchopped from the tender and went and did what we do, we had 5 fires in the first 70. What was the first time we shut? Was 78 days. You know, we pulled the hatch, dropped, and did what we do, and then popped back up. We had 5 fires. So if you want to lose your mind in a submarine, fight a fire. The last moments of my active duty on the boat, I was assigned as a fire watch that almost burned the whole front of the boat down. You know, damn near killed me. I mean, damn near killed me. This guy wrote that in one of my books. I think a date with suicide. I put that in there. But yeah, that was the end of my service obligation of active duty. Was met by being surrounded by a blaze, and it's kind of a longer story, but wasn't the first fire I fought, and wasn't the last.
it is literally mind-boggling. First and foremost, the idea of what you said about like the worst thing you want to experience when you're in a submarine is facing a fire. So that was not even in my brain space. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just not even something that was tracking or computing that could happen, would happen, like any of those things. Then when you said it, I'm like, well, you have limited oxygen, and if you're down really far ways, you have a while to get back up to the surface. Like, wow.
I always tell people like this: put yourself in your house, black out all the windows, bolt everything shut, kill all the power, let it be midnight, and then light the house on fire. Okay. Now what are you going to do, right? 59 feet, 6 inches, displacing 6,900 ton of nuclear-powered submarine, right? Now what are you going to do?
That's insanity.
Oh, and by the way, if you don't get that fire out soon, 120 men are going to be killed, depending on whether we blow up or just burn to death.
Well, would you lose oxygen at some point as well?
So they have oxygen tanks that are outside the that are contained, so you can pipe air into, and you wear these masks that have air hoses that connect to emergency breathing connections. So as soon as the fire alarm goes off, you put on your mask. And, so if you've ever tried to exert yourself in with any form of activity, and you're wearing a gas mask, man, it is not easy. Now, once you have an emergency situation, you know what happens to the body, the brain, right? Goes into hyperdrive and everything is pumping. So you need oxygen, right? Well, try breathing oxygen through an emergency breathing apparatus. Not a lot of fun.
It does not sound like a lot of fun, just to be FYI. So I always have mad respect for service members. I have mad respect for every branch of the military. I always have, because I think in every way, shape, or form, regardless of where you are or what you're doing in the military, you're putting your life on the line.
That's true.
You know what I mean? You're fighting for your country. You're fighting for people's freedoms. You're fighting for so many different things. And when you go on a deployment, there's always got to be a gnawing in somebody's head that they may not come home. There's always that possibility every single time. And that's
damn near happened to me.
Well, and psychologically, that's a heavy load to bear. Mind you, all the other things that come along with being in the Army. So you in the Navy. So you came back after being deployed. You were deployed or discharged. Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Discharged
Yeah.
I was 100%
I
disability credit.
completed my commitment, and I had two options: either get discharged to VA or kind of sit around on some Navy base waiting for them to figure out what to do with me. So I said, nah, I did my time. Let's move on.
So but you got the disability credit, but you also ended up homeless after that.
Well, when I was discharged to homeless because I didn't have a place to live. I had a truck, but I never considered myself homeless, right? I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
was sleeping on a kid I grew up with, smart kid. Was in his ROTC, and he was in his sixth year of a master's or something up at Northeastern University. He rented one of those classic triple deckers. He was up on the third floor with roommates. So he let me sleep on his back porch. So I spent October, November, December, January, February, March living on a open air back porch. Wake up and knock the snow off me and go to work, right? But so I don't know. I didn't consider myself homeless, but when people hear the story, they go, "Yeah, you were homeless." Like, oh, all right, But again, to me, it is what it is. Just keep planning the future and keep moving forward.
So that's the thing, right? Like all of the things that came, and we're going to get into this too in a second after the break. But this is the one question I want to ask: have you figured out in your lifetime? So I feel like maybe the Navy was running, maybe I'm not sure. I'm projecting, right? So like you had this shitty childhood, all of those things. Was the Navy like an escape for you? Was that how that came about, or you just wanted to serve?
Oh, I definitely wanted to serve. Of course, there was a gentleman in a robe with a nice tie, and he sat on this elevated bench in front of this room full of people, some of them with handcuffs, who was encouraging me to come back with my enlistment papers when I was 17.
Okay.
But from a young age, I just knew. I knew that I was going in the military. I wanted to go in the Marines, but I knew in my head that I was going in the Navy, and I needed someone to sign for me, and because I didn't live at home and so on, and my mother would only sign if I joined the Navy because her father was a World War II submarine vet who rode submarines until 1965.
So, what do you think was it that was inside you that kept you going?
God, Great Spirit, my spirit guides, the voice, the angel. Okay, just like when I was in that situation, is someone's going to die here, and I'm gonna tell you, it wasn't me. I was barely 14 years old. I think just after my just after I turned 14, and I had gotten big enough where nobody was ever going to put their hands on me again, and nobody has, right? Including crazy. But as you read in the book, 2,442 Steps to Crazy, the cops were busting through the door, and I could feel his life force surrender. Okay. So it was kind of two things. One is listening to the spirits, right? Enough. And the other was, if you don't understand the energy of people, and I see a lot of stuff, right? So I got to be careful I don't overspeak in a sense of, speaking past folks, but I can feel life force, I can see energy and so on and so on. But I could feel that this guy will never harm me again. Okay. When you're at that point with somebody else's life, I can see where darkness would thrive. But if you're a true white light being, if you and the baby Jesus truly are one, then, you can feel and sense when you're hurting somebody because their energy, their spirit, right, is defeated, right? And that's what I could feel.
So God, the great, you said it and it's gone from my brain. Great Spirit, the voices that were speaking to you, the whispers, saying enough. Did you heed?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so the bastard lived. I'm all about the forgiveness and things like that, but still, don't have to be that.
Well, that's one that the baby Jesus will have to deal with directly because I've forgiven a lot in my life, all right, but that ain't one of them. I mean, I'd love to tell your audience I'm a big enough man to forgive that rat bastard, but I just can't. So I know what I'm supposed to do, and I have to be true to myself, and I don't want to lie to myself or people. So I can't, whether it's a matter of being ready or not.
You know what? I respect you for that. I respect the honesty there, because that is for you and you alone, right? There's lots of adages. Like, people will say, when you forgive someone, and I do believe this myself, when you forgive someone, it's not for them, it's for you,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
I believe that sort of thing, but I've never been tortured for 14 years and had my life completely destroyed by a being. So I can't comment or make any sort of judgment whether or not you should forgive him or not forgive him.
Yeah,
And
CK, I'll tell you, I preach and write that trauma can only be understood by the person who has suffered it, right?
mm-hmm.
And I use my boot camp experience as an example in my book, A Date with Suicide, right? For me, as I said, boot camp was boring, and I mean it was boring, right? You get yelled at, whoopee pickle. Okay. Another kid made it 6 weeks, couldn't take it anymore. I got woken up because I was in charge of the entire boot camp company once we were inside the barracks, and this roving watch comes and grabs me and says, "Hey, we got a guy killing himself." I'm like, oh boy. So I jump out of the rack, I go find out, and this kid from the Bronx, tough kid, had sliced his wrist, blood everywhere, right? He busted his back apart. And I was so furious with him, because the mess, and we got to deal with this. And it wasn't until I wrote the book that it really came to light that if somebody was going through that much trauma just in 6 weeks of boot camp for getting yelled at and having to march and do these things, I don't have any right judging or even truly trying to understand another person's trauma, because I can't experience it through their life and their lens. And it really dawned on me that trauma is truly as personal as it gets. And no matter how big or small, right? Torture or you got yelled at. Listen, people deal with it in their way.
It is, that is it. I mean, like, I'll do the same thing that you do. like right on the nose. That is absolutely it.
Right.
To me, though, before we go to break, I just want to, like, something that I realized when you were just speaking. So your wife was so accurate too, because I think torture does make sense for what happened to you, because a part of that torture was conditioning.
Yes.
Right? And that conditioning stayed with you for so long afterwards. And maybe there's parts that are still here today. But, all right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Partner today with CK Sims and poddinmynoggin to get in front of an audience that cares. You will be supporting mental health stories, tales of resilience, and uplifting content, aligning your brand with bringing goodness, authenticity, and kindness front and center. This spot could be yours. Do you have a story of struggle and resilience? One that you want to share with others and possibly help someone through their own struggles? Find the link in the show description and fill out the guest form today.
Welcome back, everybody. Before the break, we have been talking to D. Paul about, not so much about his book, but we will talk about his book, about his life leading up to today, in more focused on his early childhood, his time in the Navy and serving, and some of his experiences. So you are now, I have a question. So you are, I want to get the words right. So a Native American holy man.
Seasoned holy man.
Okay, and so you are indigenous.
I have a feather.
You have a feather, yes. But so you are indigenous.
My grandfather was born. His mother jumped the reservation, went back to the plains and gave birth, and he jumped the Carlisle schools and claimed he was white. Joined the Navy at, I think it was 15 or 14, and rode submarines through World War II and retired as a lieutenant commander. I got a great photograph of his burial plot at Fort Snelling, Minnesota.
That's incredible. And so so here's the thing. So you say that you're a Christian, right?
Me and the baby Jesus, baby, we be one.
Yes. But then you're also a Native American seasoned holy man.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is where I'm curious now. So in my brain, not in my brain. I am a pastor's kid. Like I grew up in the Pentecostal church, so both my parents are ministers.
Okay.
And if I look through it in that lens from back then, maybe not so much anymore, but the two don't intersect. So how, for you, does those two things intersect?
I can give you an example.
Okay.
The Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost.
Mm-hmm.
So my beliefs as a Native American, as well as a Christian, are exactly the same. Okay, just different words. Okay.
Is there a Holy Trinity in Native American?
Yes. 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 And there always has been. If you could have a deep conversation with a spiritual elder inside, and again, you got to remember, tribes are they have similar and different beliefs, and some of them perfectly aligned, like the Trinity. Right? I've yet to bump into a Native American tribe that doesn't have something that they can say, yeah, this is the Trinity, right? Okay, and it's the same thing, different words. There are so many parallels that it's easy for me to understand it. Okay, but I wasn't raised, a Catholic. My wife's a hardcore Irish Catholic, and I respect all that. I raised our kids Catholic, and I also show them my Native Americanism, right? It's kind of like. Like people will look at the Native American and say, "Oh, you can't say sage will, dissuade negative spirits." I say, "Really? Then what's the priest doing walking around with the fog lamp as he's coming up and down the aisle? What is that? Or when you do a funeral, what's the point of the smoke?" Okay, hello. Okay, so when you really dive into it, I could sit here for hours and just bounce off similarities, if not exact, item for item accounting, right?
That is fascinating. And the
I
more you
know.
know. And the
I
more you
know.
know. So, but all right. So, how did we get from? So, you just said that you weren't raised in the church, essentially. How did we get from, what we talked about last segment being tortured, the army, coming out, sleeping on a back porch, open air back porch for 6 months?
Yep.
How did we get from there to becoming a man of faith?
So, in hindsight, I always had faith.
Mm-hmm.
It just came in at different levels.
Of course.
Okay. When I was angry with God, especially young, it was way down here. Okay. The more life kind of takes its course, and you patch the potholes in your life, right? And you find your red road and you just keep moving. For me, my spirituality kind of opened up as I traveled that path, right? It's like anything else in life. You like certain things like gaming for kids now, and then you get older and the majority of them go on to something else. Or, you could start off with a little small digital camera and take that into being the world's greatest photographer. But most people kind of take that hobby and it ends at some point and you find other interests. To me, my spirituality is the same way, except it was always coming from within. All right. I've been able to see angels my whole life. So in hometown USA of romantic Willimantic, Connecticut, the St. Joseph Church, the first time I walked by that church, I was small, but I knew there was a powerful spirit inside those doors. And the first time I walked into St. Joseph's Church, I could see the angel. Okay. And when you're relatively young, that's crazy talk, right? Nobody really listens to you. But when you get older and you can start understanding these things, it makes it so much easier. And I'm not the only person that sees the angel at St. Joseph Church. Actually, I put her in my book. She's a key figure in the mysteries of the Windham Inn, right? Especially in book 2. But right, Mysteries of the Windham Inn. Let's pump that book. I hear that offers. I hear that offers. That author's something else, man.
I hear you.
So, My spirituality kind of blossomed as my life kind of took its course. And at first, right, the traumas of early childhood left me thinking God was anything other than what he is, right?
Yep.
And as the rest of life came and started having kids, and I spent a lot of time praying on the important things. 5 fingers, 5 toes, healthy children. That's all I'm asking for. I suffered enough in this life. I don't want unhealthy children. I would pray my behind off. Okay. And I would be outside communing with nature, doing the same thing. So I was exercising both sides of the ball, right? All my kids were healthy and, so on and so on. Same with the grandchildren. Now it's time to pass the torch and let them do what they need to do. So along with raising kids and everything else we do in life, my faith followed. But for me, just the Christianity, didn't fit. It just didn't fit. And priests would say things that would piss me off. Okay. My wife would come home and say, or the kids would come home and say, and I'd be like, man, listen, don't let any person on this planet come between you and God. If you read the Bible, it is crystal clear. You can talk to Jesus all you want. You don't need a person in between. You want to do all these things, you can do them. Just don't get trapped by some moronic guy in a collar, okay, who doesn't represent the true faith. He represents more of his interests. Because the priest standing right next to him is one of the greatest priests on this planet. So find who you align with, okay? Mm-hmm. And I write Father, in the book he's Father Leroy, but in real life he's Father Larry, one of the greatest priests I've ever met. Okay, this is truly a man of the cloth and a phenomenal representative of the Catholic Church. Okay, now we could go on and say all we want. The point I'm trying to make is find the religious pieces that fit you and move forward with that, and don't let anybody come between you and your faith. And a lot of times you have to shut your mouth and not say anything about your faith so that your internal truths can blossom.
Can we say that louder for the people in the back?
Me and the baby Jesus be one, my friend.
No, so that last thing that you just said, so you've said some really poignant things throughout this interview, and I really love the way you look at your faith on both sides, right? So Christianity and Native American, holy man, nope, not scented, seasoned holy man. Seasoned holy man, yes.
I'm gonna get you flashcards.
Yes, and so I find it really interesting, so much so that I'll probably go down a rabbit hole at some point to see if I can find all of the parallels, because I find that very interesting. But that last thing is such incredible advice. Sometimes you have to shut your mouth to protect your faith internally. Is that
to let your internal faith blossom?
Okay, let's try that again. Sometimes you have to shut your mouth to let your internal faith blossom.
And what is your internal faith? The Christ within.
Yes.
Okay. The Holy Spirit is inside of you.
Yes.
Let it blossom. Let it talk to you. And do it with your mouth closed. Because people that run around thumping Bibles on other people, right? Listen, they're trying to tell you what they believe. Okay. Do you want to read the Bible? Pick up the Bible and read it. And figure out what you believe. Okay?
Yeah.
Let me make sure I do this, CK. I do not bash religion.
No.
Okay? I don't. There's zero purpose in it. Okay? All religions are based on good. Period. Full stop. Okay? It is man and power and greed and money and all those sins that corrupt everything. So open your eyes, open your ears, listen, and close your mouth. Feel what resonates with your soul, with your Christ within, with your Holy Spirit or Great Spirit inside of you, and listen to that voice. And when something strikes you as, yeah, I resonate with that, then run with it. Or when, some preacher stands up there and says, if you don't pray for Christophiles, you're going to, I don't need that crap. Okay, listen, we all got our crosses to bear, and I can only pray for those who I can pray for. I don't have time to pray for the folks that, right? I got enough people to take care of.
Well,
so for me, that's how the two dovetail, my Native American beliefs and the Christianity faith.
So you're extraordinarily refreshing. Absolutely. And you know what's so interesting? I want to share something with you because I believe in vulnerability. And I believe in the last 9 years, my life has been in abundance because of vulnerability. I've chosen to step out of my shell, my fear. When you first joined today, you came on screen, I got a little scared. Gonna be honest. So I got the American flag back there, got the Navy hat. You're a big guy, right? And like you're probably, some people at home might not be catching it, but like to me, like someone might say, well, he's on another side of the screen in a different country. What are you scared about? But like you just get, I got fearful that we're going to potentially, it hasn't happened yet, potentially have like butt heads, which is fine. People are allowed to butt heads, right? Mm-hmm. And hash things out and all of that sort of thing. But so I did have a moment, a temporary moment of fear when I first came on and saw you.
Can I help you with that, CK?
Yeah.
If I walk into a room with 20 people in it, 10 of them are gonna hate me. 10 of them are gonna love me. In that 10 that hate me, they can't decide whether they're terrified of me or just hate me. Okay? But the automatic response from fear is to bring hate in so that you have the ability to pump your adrenaline and fight. Well, I have the same effect on the internet. And again, I can only attribute that to God. Period.
Fair.
Okay? Listen,
fair.
I'm just a messenger.
My fear, so I respond differently, also just in the last 9 years. My fear now manifests in I'm going to give them my best self. Mm-hmm. And so if that's not good enough for them, then it's a
you're doing shadow work. Granddaughter Crow's awesome book, Shamanism and Your Shadow. If you want to learn about, yourself, that's a hell of a book.
I will actually look it up. I love to read all of this stuff. So, okay. So, Holy Man, seasoned Holy Man.
It's all good. It's all good, Casey.
Yeah. No, I want to remember. It's important. And Christian, you have your faith. When did you start writing? When did that become an outlet for you?
Yeah, listen, I fought writing for as long as I could possibly take it, right? Why the heck would I want to write this? I lived it. I don't want to, right? I lived it, okay? My grandfather, not the one on the submarine, my other one, he was, he landed on the beach in Normandy. When Tom Hanks' movie came out, I said, hey, you want to go see this movie? Because I was close with him, okay? He says, what do I want to do that for? I was there. I landed second wave, beach of Normandy, second mechanized. And I had to walk all the way to Germany, and those bastards made me walk back, right? He was more upset they made him walk back. He goes, what do I want to see Tom Hanks thing for? And now I'm going to kill you here, Casey. I forgot what the question was, how I got off on that rant.
Oh, no, it was a great rant. What was the catalyst that got you into writing? Like, what brought that about?
So, as I was saying, I don't, like my grandfather said, I lived that. What the heck would I want to be there, right? So I was like, why would anybody listen to my stories? These are the things that are playing out. And then the biggest one of all is I don't want to do it. I just don't want to do it. I don't want to relive and write all this. I don't want to process this crap, right? This is stupid. No. Finally said, you know what? I've done enough to tick off the baby Jesus. Maybe I better write this book so I don't have more stuff to answer for, right? Okay. The truth is, it just, the faith, my faith just kept tapping away at me. It didn't push too hard, and it, wasn't weak in making sure the message was clear. And it took me time. I mean, it probably took me 18 months to write the first book, right? And on top of that, I'm dyslexic. I read horribly slow. I can't spell to save my life. And I don't know a thing about the English language, grammar, or editing a book, period. In fact, I'm still not sure the difference between an adverb and an adjunct professor, okay? Now, that's a guy who's written a number of books here, and getting high praise as a hell of an author. And I'm like, listen, I'm a pretty good storyteller. But how is it that you see all this in the book? And this is important, okay? When I write, and I can type. I can truly type like a bat out of hell, okay? Thank God for spell check. Otherwise, it would look like I'm typing in Russian. And I don't think we have any Russian listeners, do we?
Anyway. We do have a listener who joins from Belarus.
Oh, okay. So anyway, in the process of shutting down the denial of I ain't going to do this and opening up the computer and putting it out there, I figured that there's no interest in this, never going to happen, blah, blah, blah. Okay. I was stunned at the reactions to the people when I published this book. And I mean stunned. I lost count on how many 5-star reviews are out there on this book. But what was more important was what people were saying about my writing. Okay. Anybody can write, but to impress upon ink and paper emotions and visions and images and feelings, and that's what everybody keeps coming and telling me. I was a fly on the wall watching you through life. I could hear, I could see, I could sense. And this, now, of course, I'm sitting back and there's the baby Jesus tapping his fingers like, I tried to tell you years ago, right? And then as soon as that positive starts coming along, I hear the whispers. A date with suicide, a date with suicide. And at first I'm thinking, great, now the spirit world wants me to off myself. Well, that's not the case. The title of the book, A Date with Suicide. So I was like, great, I just went from one nightmare to the next and you want me to put this stuff out there? I did. And again, I joke with you not. That book has saved lives. They've saved at least one shipmate I was with. This guy was coming back from a funeral of a vet I hadn't seen in 40 years who killed himself. He was on the plane going home, and he was going home to kill himself. What did he do? He saw my book online, read it on the airplane, coming from Texas back to the East Coast, right? Called me up, said, hey, your book stopped me from killing myself. I want to meet. Okay. So I started realizing the importance of my writing and the ability to move emotion through my fingers into pen and paper and into people's, so that people receive it. It's not me. That's a gift from God, period.
I was about to say, actually, that sounds like you're anointed.
Well, it's just God speaking through me. I'm not comfortable with the titles and.
Well, no, and I don't necessarily believe that when I use that phrase that it means it's from you. Like anointed is God blessing you, working through you. You have a gift that He's helping you use, and you say that you don't know grammar and the rules and all these things, but yet that none of that really matters at the end of the day. It's because it's how and what you write that resonates with people.
Yes.
And the feelings that they can feel in those pages.
Yeah.
So you've written how many books now?
So I'm publishing my fourth and my fifth and sixth are on the way. Yeah, this one, book one is out. Book two will be out here in a couple of months.
Okay.
And then there's two more behind this. This is probably a 10 or 12 book series. There's a lot of stuff we're doing in that. All right. Early next year, book 2 of the Crazy series will come out. And that kind of, there's a lot of people out there saying, barking at me to get that book done. I wrote it. I put it off to the side and I left it there for a while. And I've got to pick it up, do a round of editing on it, and then get it out to the publisher.
Well, sometimes things need to ruminate a little bit.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. It gives great folks like you an opportunity to see this bald-headed mug.
Well, exactly. And then I think what's interesting, too, is I love the point that you made that you may not be the best writer, if in your words, right? But you're a heck of a storyteller.
Oh, I can tell a story, baby.
Yes. And so I think that I've always said this about myself. Is I am a storyteller, not a writer. Like, if I focus on the writing, I will not be able to do anything. I have to just focus on the story. right?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. If I sat down and said I've got to make this and not touch, I will lose my mind. I set a 1,500 word count goal per day. All right, and I type and I constantly say to myself, stop critiquing yourself and just tell the story. Okay, and that's where the best work gets done, CK. And I applaud you for that approach.
Yeah, you have to remove the critical eye, right? Because to
Yes.
create, you just need to let it flow. You can be
Yes.
critical after you're done and come back and edit when your masterpiece is your first draft is done.
Right.
Like that's when you can do that editing. So you have books coming up. Now, this book, I just want to make sure, it's fiction, but is it based on, it's not fiction. Okay, so I got it wrong. Because I was going to say it's fiction, but it's based on real life events that you've experienced. But it's real life events that you've experienced.
So the living characters in the book, the main character is a guy I grew up with. He
Okay.
showed up out of the blue. Again, hadn't seen him in years. Drove his motorcycle right into my yard and said, "Hey," I was like, "What's going on?" He goes, "Man, I got to tell you some stories." And as soon as he said that, I just kind of looked up and said, let's see where this is going. And he started telling me about when he lived at the Windham Inn and how when he was sleeping, he not only would have this dream about this black cat, but it would wake him up and he'd have scratch marks and it would be smashing him on the head. And he would jump out of bed screaming and flip the light on because he swore this cat was sitting on his head and it was gone. And when he looked in the mirror, he'd have these scratches. Okay. So, for the folks that are familiar with Windham Center, you can't tell us how many times, they can't tell us how many times the volunteer fire department has been called to that building for scratching in the walls, for a cat calling out in the chimney. Okay. So it all started out with Master Gary showing up and saying, "Hey, I got to tell you something. What did I hear next?" Right? I see the quill and the feather saying it's time for you to write.
So the Windham Inn is a real place.
Oh, yeah. The
And
picture on the cover, if you Google that address or Windham Center, the picture of the Windham Inn will come up, the exact picture.
So this is, I was going to read it anyway. And looking forward to reading it because I love to read. That is how I get what's the word I'm looking for? That's my mindfulness. That's how I'm fully in my body and my mind when I'm reading a book. It's a very bizarre thing because it should be the opposite. But love to read.
No, because I write with what you just said. I have to be in that position to write or it doesn't flow. So I love what you just said.
Well, that's how, it's so bizarre because I've had therapy throughout life and I think therapy is great. And I was explaining this to my therapist. That's not typically how that works because your brain's preoccupied. And I'm like, well, I can tell you right now when I am reading a book, I know exactly what my toes are feeling. I am so aware of the hairs on my arms, the pressure that my back is applying to a couch or a cushion. Like I am so in my body when I am reading. And it literally feels like when I'm done reading a book, it feels like I just attended some sort of like relaxation retreat and I'm like renewed. It's so bizarre. So reading is my escape. Like I love to read. So I've been looking forward to reading it. But now that I actually realize that it's truly a real place, that's yeah, I got goosies because now I'm excited. And I love how the cat has a little lapel on the picture. Great. So this book, the second book, is called Mysteries at the Windham in book 2. And what's the tagline? It's not the feral feline still? Or is it?
Pesky orb.
Orb?
Mysteries at the Windham Inn and the pesky orb. O-R-B. Orb.
Okay. Yep.
Orb.
Yep. Oh, that sounds interesting. And so 2,442 Steps to Crazy. That was your first book. And the beginning, I love how you just knew. I love how the spirits whispered that there's going to be more in that book. And then you wrote also A Date with Suicide. You've got these 2 books, but there's another 2 coming out next year, I think you said.
Yes.
But in your head, there's probably 10 to 12 you had mentioned.
Yeah, I've already started I mean, I've got books written that are just sitting in my computer. One's about the greatest football game ever played. And then another book that I'm writing, and I've got some major chunks of it done, is about a particular operation called Obtain Document 3. That is a real operation that I was on with the USS Dallas SSN 700. When we were there, when the United States went after Gaddafi the first time, when Gaddafi drew his line of death across the Mediterranean, and Reagan sent the Seventh Fleet in to see him, or the Sixth Fleet in to see him in the Mediterranean, and I was on that crew, and we spent an ungodly amount of time, doing what we do. And like I said, we were there when so that book is being written, and in that book, it kind of walks people through how the submarine ran me over and tried to kill me, and here I am.
That sounds incredible. Because I also love like military special ops books. Like this, yeah. One of my favorite books this year, actually. There's two that I rank at the top. You may get up there. I haven't read it yet. But Enemies Domestic by John Didakis.
Okay.
It's an incredible book. And Recoil of Justice by Brad Elder. I have to always remember the names. And these were guests on my show. Both very like political / black ops type situations. And I don't know why, but I just love them. I also love watching those movies, right? So, but you're like a real life version of that. So, but who loves Jesus and can hear the spirits. Like that's pretty cool mix. So I thought you had a website. Do you not have a website?
I gave up on maintaining that thing a while ago. I have a Facebook.
Okay, so you're on Facebook. Okay, we're gonna find that and link that, and then all of your books, I'm assuming, are online on like all major bookstores.
Yes.
And I can go buy 2442 on Amazon like after we're done, right?
Yeah, if you want to. Yeah, the easiest. I tell people you can get them anywhere you buy books, but the simplest path, at least my simplest path to tell folks, is Amazon, right? Because you can get the audio book, or the paperback.
Do you read the audiobooks?
No.
Are you ever going to read an audiobook?
They keep asking me to, but again, I have such a problem with dyslexia and reading in general.
That's fair.
That it's extremely difficult for me to edit. A page with say 500 words on it. Listen, this can take me a half hour to edit. Okay, because that's how slowly I read, and when I hear, like my part of my mind is seeing and hearing the story, and it's projecting words that aren't there. So it gets crazy for me. Like I'll know this is the word, but it's not. It'll take 4, 5, 6 tries to get the sentence right. And when I'm done, what I was thinking it said isn't what it says. Okay. So it's difficult for me to read and record. When I do these short clips, I have to rehearse it 10, 20, 30 times because I can't look at something and read it without stumbling, losing it, or not being able to project or see the word. So it's challenging. So a lot of people have asked me to do this, and it would be interesting to have, steps to crazy in my own voice, right? It's just I'm not there. I'm just not there.
Can you mimic?
I don't know what you mean.
Well, so my solution for you would be you hire someone to read for you and you repeat after them.
Yeah, it's too much work. I got
it's a lot of work. Yes, I know, but I'm just saying, like, if there was ever you wanted to just do one book in your voice, but I mean, also, I'm not sure how you feel about AI, but you can spend the money and have AI match.
Yeah, the book you're talking about, Mysteries. I signed off on a British woman AI being the narrator. The voice of the book. Okay. So I did that on this book, but I mean, as this kind of grows and takes its shape, I'll look at different things, but first and foremost, I'm retired and I kind of enjoy what I do. And I don't want to lose my focus on helping people and, taking care of vets.
That's the thing. We didn't really touch on this, and I know that we're at time, but I want to take a few minutes and touch on the fact that you are actually actively involved in helping others. So you're not
Oh, yeah.
just a prolific writer with dyslexia who has survived some incredible hellish things. You are actively involved in fellow veterans and supporting them, helping people in many different ways through your faith and through being a seasoned holy man.
Yeah.
How do
Yeah.
you find that work? How does it come to you?
You just said it. It comes to me. Okay. I mean, it inside the VA, they know me. Okay. So I can get people will refer me from there, um, friends. Okay. But I kind of, I shouldn't say friends, people that know me, not so much friends, but people that know me or know of me. All right. But I kind of think more of the spirit world brings to bear the folks that need to cross my path or vice versa, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I really have spent a lifetime helping veterans, and the number that the VA puts out is 22 or 17 veterans a day commit suicide. That's not even close. The number's actually north of 50 veterans a day and growing. And it's not a U.S. problem; it's a worldwide problem. I've been on Veteran Suck podcast by Mick over in the UK. I've been on some shows up in Canada and other countries, Africa and so on, where the rhythm of the suicide is all the same. It constantly repeats the same tone, the same drum beat, country to country, state to state, rich, poor, doesn't matter. Okay. It always comes down to the same core things. And when I help people, I tell them, listen, we're going to address the four corners of your existence: your physical, your mental, your emotional, and your spiritual beings. Those are the four corners of what we are. Okay. And once you address those things, once you balance your existence, right, that's when you'll be able to, to deal with any suicidal thoughts, any rough spots in life, because you've given yourself that foundation. I never push faith or religion, but I tell people, like this recent vet that I spent well over a year working with. The last step for me was I knew he had darkness inside of him. I could see it, and I knew he had an attachment on him and an entity in his house. Okay. So the last step, my wife and I went there with another guy, and we cleared out his house, cleared him, cleansed him, and took care of his wife. And I've always said to this guy, listen, I understand you're a borderline atheist, and your wife's a big time Christian, loves her faith and going to church. You have to find something greater than you. I'm not pointing you in any direction. I'm just telling you, you have to, because the last step is doing something spiritually. Again, if you just go in and commune with nature, okay, go hug a tree, go sit in the woods, go listen to the water. If that brings you peace, then that is spirituality. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because to find peace, you have to find your inner self. Okay. Well, again, this guy's a borderline atheist. When I got done clearing him, and all the birds, hand to God, all the birds flew back into his yard, and his wife started crying, saying, this is the first time in years a bird has even come on our property. All right. It was so emotional that she was crying and so on. I think that was the tipping point where he had seen enough. He started out by going to a funeral of a vet who committed suicide. He was there himself, and he came that long, long, long red to where he was. Final step, find some faith for yourself. Find something. He goes to church every Sunday. Not the same church as his wife. They go to different churches. They're on two different paths that are very similar, but they like their little bit of time apart in their own spiritual faith. Okay. So he's crossed off checked all four boxes. It's physical, emotional, mental, and now spiritual. And he's doing fine.
I love this. I love that. I think that that's such a beautiful thing and such a transformation, right? Like that's the work I'm in, but not the work I'm in. Let's be clear. Let's not make things. I'm in transformation for corporations. That's my day job. But for a person to go on that kind of journey, to be suicidal, and then to come to a point where they're balanced, is exactly what you said, because your four corners are balanced. That's massive. And so this is, I mean, that's also so spiritually rewarding for you. It has to be, to see this happen and unfold and manifest in other people's lives through your work.
So you would think so, right? So let's go back to what we started to on the earliest part of this conversation.
Okay.
And yet I don't. Yeah.
Not at all. So I will leave you with one question then.
Well, hold on 1 second.
Okay.
If you go back down that path of accepting, that you've done something, okay, what happens when the guy kills himself? What do you do? Right? Okay, and then here's the biggest one of all, CK. How do you prevent stroking your own ego? Because the ego is one of the most dangerous pieces of the body that exist, right? It will take you places only the devil wants you to go, right? So I'm very reluctant to accept praise, okay? But it's not just because of childhood trauma and so on, all right? I want to make sure I keep my ego in check. I don't want to disrespect anybody that offers me, kudos, okay? But I tend to stay lighthearted about it, all right? Because that other shoe can drop and darkness is always listening.
Absolutely. So in the same breath, though, then my question would be, if the other shoe drops, and they do, say they do take their lives, are you as detached and lighthearted about it?
Yes.
That's massive balance.
Yes.
That is a skill and discipline.
Well, that's very kind of you, and thank you. That actually makes me feel very good.
Well,
thank you.
If you can maintain the same lightheartedness about what you're doing in the lives of other people, regardless of the outcome, that is a discipline and a skill, like mastery. Sorry, I have goosebumps. You've given them to me like twice, maybe I think 3 times in this call. So, all right. So we know what you're doing. You are living your best life right now, writing books. Someone who refused to write a book for so long, wrote a book. It received such wonderful sort of feedback of how it really impacted. And I think, you're just like, it sounds like AI when I say this, but a living testament of what it is to live in your truth and how that can impact the lives of others around you, right?
Again, that's very kind. That's very kind. Well, thank you.
But this is, you've essentially said it in just different words already, right? And you wrote your first book, but now you're like, what, you're 6 in? But more than that, because there's other books on your computer we don't know about. So, like...
Yeah, if I drop dead tomorrow, my wife's going to make a lot of money.
Well, I hope that doesn't happen, because I want books to be finished, and I'm looking forward to reading the book about the submarine visit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's going to be a book.
Yeah, so like there's books. So like I'm gonna go to Amazon and purchase a few. I think there's another one on its way, perhaps, if I remember.
Yeah, book 2 will be out here. I'm shooting for end of the year, but I want to kind of see how much excitement I can drive, because I write in cliffhangers. Okay.
So when I do read this book, I will make I review every book that someone sends me, just as a like, if you're gonna send me a book, I'm going to review your book. I've never read a book that I hated, right? I can be critical, but I don't ever hate books. So I will review it, but also now I feel like I'm going to have to make it happen this weekend. So when I do read this book, I'm going to record a little snippet and include it in a future podcast about, like, listen, I read this book. There's a cliffhanger. Now I'm really PO'd at D. Paul because he's leaving me hanging. And I'm like, where's the next copy? So I absolutely hate cliffhangers. Like, I am one of those people who will be faithful and will pick up your next book because of the experience. When people do cliffhangers, I just watch, and we're so over time, but that's fine. It's my show. I can do what I want. I just watched, I don't know if you've seen it, but the Matlock show, the remake with Kathy Bates.
I haven't seen it, but I know what you're talking about.
brilliant. But their last season finale of last year, I was angry for almost a week because they left it at such a high stakes cliffhanger, like so high stakes, high emotion cliffhanger. I'm like, I have to wait months and months and months and months to find out what happens. I'm like, this is not fair. I get really upset. So I'm gonna read the book. I'm gonna do a snippet and put it up on a future podcast, but I'll also review it as well. So this has been a pleasure for me to have you here. I'm so glad that I don't let fear or unconscious bias or any of that sort of thing prevent me from leaning in and just treating people the right way, because this has been just wonderful. Thank you for your service. Thank you for the work that you're doing because you kind of did your service twice, right? If you think about it, you did your service in the service, and now you're doing your service for the service. So thank you for that. Thank you for writing books that help others, and for being a guest on my show. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on. I honestly, I hope you have it back and enjoy the read. Keep the faith, keep moving forward.
Well, for everyone at home, until next time, get out there and live your wildest dreams.
For media and sponsorship inquiries, email info@cksims.com or visit cksims.com and fill out the contact form. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. A new episode airs every Saturday. CKS Media.